Hey guys, welcome back to the X's and O's podcast. Today we're going to talk some Super Bowl aftermath, I guess. We're going to talk kind of our podcast and our page's plan for the future this off season and beyond. We're going to talk some quarterback movement or not movement, and well, whatever else comes up. So, Mons, Pepper, what's up, guys?
Hey, how's it going?
Much.
So we need to talk about the Super Bowl because it happened, but me personally, I don't feel like spending a lot of time on it. Uh, it's just a bad game. Well, depending on who you were cheering for, it wasn't fun to watch, in my opinion. What do you guys think?
Depends on how much skin you had in the game. I didn't really care for either team winning, I mean, both are, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, they're kind of expected to be there, but, it is what it is. There's a blowout, a lot different than we expected.
Well, it really went kind of how I expected, just more to an extreme. I had it like a 3-point game, but I figured the pass rush would get after Mahomes pretty bad, and I figured the Buccaneers would control the clock, but I didn't know it'd be that bad.
I mean, I guess from our predictions is, tight end play. Gronkowski had 2 touchdowns. I think Brady had a couple catches. I don't remember hearing him much. And then linebacker play for Tampa Bay was amazing. So, that's what we expected.
Yeah, and I think anyone that went in saying Tampa Bay's going to win, this is kind of how you saw them doing it. You saw them went in with taking care of the football, making smart decisions on offense, and then getting after Mahomes and making his life hard and making every throw hard. That was the thing that I noticed is I didn't see but maybe 2 throws from Mahomes that looked like it was easy.
Yeah, I feel like their game plan just wasn't that
when
good.
they got down early. That whole second half is when they knew they had to throw. As soon as he got the snap, he was running backwards.
Oh yeah. What were you gonna say, Mons?
Well, I guess also it kind of shows how much a team that wants to win consistently needs a running game. And then, Kansas City defense isn't bad, but they're not great. They're middle of the pack. So you need a good defense, like good linebacking play, good D line, and that's what Tampa Bay had. All they needed was a quarterback.
I was really impressed with the way that both the corners played for Tampa Bay because Tyreek Hill and they had Sammy Watkins in this game. That's not easy guys to cover. And I think they did a good job. And, they're helped out with the pass rush. Obviously.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's easy to cover when your quarterback's running backwards every play.
Well, I mean, still, they would get up on Tyreek Hill and, play him, tough at the line. And there are times, I think they tried to do that last game and got torched because he's just so quick off the line.
Well, they blitzed a lot more the first game, too.
Yeah, this game they just relied on their front four.
Yeah, I was watching the broadcast, and they were talking about how they were essentially bracketing Hill and Kelsey. They were running double coverage most of the game on 2 guys.
Well, I mean, those are the 2 threats, and then both of those guys had a few drops, too,
Yeah, it's true.
Well, Levante David did a heck of a job on Travis Kelce.
Yeah, David's a good
quarter. The game was over.
It really just shows how much more you're able to do if you have those 4 up front that can get to the quarterback. Because if you only have to send 4, that's a mismatch for the offense. The offense is not going to have an easy day if you're getting pressure with 4 guys.
I mean, I guess you have to take into account the injured defensive line, your quarterback's injured foot, or offensive line, the injured foot. I mean, Kansas City was in bad shape compared to Tampa Bay. And I don't want to make excuses for them, but I mean, compared to the game earlier in the season, you had your full starting offensive line. Your quarterback was healthy. He didn't come off a concussion or have turf toe. I mean, but on the other side, Tampa Bay played really well. And Kansas City, they've proven this year and last year that they're more than just Patrick Mahomes with Tyreek Hill, with Travis Kelce. So there are a lot of factors, but Tampa Bay just played a really good game. They had a really good game plan. They were, in my opinion, the more prepared team.
Yeah, and I can't remember a Super Bowl that has had this many injury, a team having this many injuries going in, um, especially on the offensive line. Because I think if you have all of your guys on the offensive line, you're probably able to make this game. You can probably slow down Barrett and JPP and make something of the game.
Yeah,
but
be more
these guys are
competitive.
just overmatched.
Yeah, I agree.
So talking about the MVP, what did you guys think about Brady being MVP?
I think it was really just a team win, and they had to give it to somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's Brady or Gronk, one of those two.
Yeah, and I've thought about it some about who I think should have gotten it, and I agree with you, Pepper, that is definitely a team win. Like, and you can't give it to the whole defense, right? Like, you can't say defense won the game, so here's an MVP for all of you. And so I think you look outside of this game in particular, and you say, why is this team here? And it's just all the stuff that Brady brings to the table. It's the work ethic and the culture and all of those things that kind of like the high tide raises all ships. And that, I mean, you can't credit Brady enough for that. I think he has changed that organization forever, like past him, because they know what a winner is like now.
I think, I mean, also if you just do MVP of the playoffs, which is a big reason they were here, is Leonard Fournette, because he had a great playoff. But yeah, if you do the whole season, if you do the reason they're here, they don't make it here with Jameis Winston. They don't make it here with any other quarterback on their roster. So yeah, it's all Tom Brady, and they've had the option, or they've had the weapons. They didn't really need Antonio Brown, although he played well. But yeah, bringing in Tom Brady definitely is the solution.
Right. And when you have a guy that's been there that many times, he knows what a Super Bowl team feels like outside of talent, right? He knows the work you have to put in, the trust that you have to have between the guys, and that's why I don't think, regardless of who else you bring in, I don't think anyone else could have done this with Tampa Bay, because I personally think they're the most talented team in the NFC, and I still don't think any of the guys on there were true leaders.
Well, I guess big question then. Do they do it again next year?
I think so. I mean,
I think they'll be better next year.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if they make it back to the Super Bowl, just because that's such a hard thing to do, to make it back every year.
Especially in an NFC South with, and I mean, Atlanta team might be good, or they're dangerous at least. And then, the Saints. You have to compete. I mean,
it depends what they do at quarterback for the Saints. And I'd say the same thing with the Panthers too. Depends what they do at quarterback. But I think regardless, they're more talented than Carolina, definitely. The Saints, again, depending on the quarterback, but I definitely think they go at least 11-5 and make it to the playoffs.
yeah.
I think next will be the best teams Tom Brady's ever had, because he's all about chemistry, and they never really start hitting their stride until the end of this year.
I don't know about best team, Pepper. You can't go 19-1, 18-1,
Yeah.
and say that that's not the best team with Randy Moss and all those guys.
Well, they had Randy Moss and Wes Welker. Who do they really have outside of that, though? This team's got Mike Evans. They got to re-sign Godwin. They bring Antonio Brown back. They'll have O.J. Howard back next year. Most likely have Gronk back next year. Tristan Wirfs will be in his second year, so he'll be better.
Their defense was just as good. They also had a lot of guys that were, I guess, underrated within that team. You know, but that team was really good. You can't discount that.
2007. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the fact that Randy Moss and Wes Welker were as good as they were, and then who's the guy? They had a receiver that they traded to
Stallworth
for that season.
They had Dante Stallworth.
Was it Stallworth?
You're thinking about DeAndre Branch. He wasn't on that team.
That's
he went to Seattle in 2005.
Oh, 2006. It was after 04. That's right.
Yeah, 2006, they had the really bad receivers. That's when they went to the AFC Championship and lost to Peyton Manning. Mm-hmm. The next year, they brought in Moss and Welker.
This is kind of off topic, but not really. Have you watched that game? That Brady Manning, the 06 season, the AFC Championship?
No.
Yeah, many times.
I have.
Have you?
It's on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
If you want to watch it once. And
very depressing.
But honestly, that is like one of the best strategic games that I've ever seen. Watching like both of those guys on offense, like I think that is the style of quarterback that I like. I like the guy that's got a good arm, but also is like knows the offense so well that they get him in the right play before the play even starts, like the mental giant almost. Or like I watched this little 20-minute video about Peyton Manning, and he said that he strived to be the ultimate field general, and I think that's the type of quarterback that I like. But I think now you have to be able to do more than that. So.
Well, if you look at Brady, though, he is a field general, but he's not technically a mobile quarterback. But if you look at the little 1 to 2 step slides that you have to make in the pocket, nobody's better than Tom Brady at that. And that's a big thing about it. He doesn't look as good as Mahomes because he's not, throwing parallel to the ground and all that stuff. But the subtle moves that he makes so he can have the same throwing motion on every throw that he ever makes. I think that's the why he's still doing it at 43.
All right, so here I'll read off this 2017 or 2017, okay? Because I want to do the comparison. This is a good comparison.
Yeah, go for it.
But the big thing is on the defense because Tom Brady is Tom Brady. I mean, you have Dante Stallworth, who's good. You have Wes Welker, Randy Moss, who's probably the best receiver of our lifetime. You have Kevin Falk, who's decent. Lawrence Maroney, he was all right. But the defense is the big thing. Vince Wilfork, Mike Vrabel, Adalius Thomas, Teddy Bruschi, Roosevelt Colvin, who was good, Randall Gay, James Sanders, Eugene Wilson, Ellis Hobbs, Asante Samuels, who wasn't even their starter.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
who was the starter? Who was the number one?
Cornerback was Hobbs and Gay.
Okay.
Samuels was definitely the best corner on that team, though.
I was going to say he's definitely talented out of those three.
He was young though at that time. He was better when he went to the Eagles, I think. But
he was young and he didn't know the system probably because it's such a difficult system.
But I think that defense is better than the Bucs defense.
Well, Richard Seymour was still on that team, right? Richard Seymour was the best player on that defense.
I think Junior Seau was on that team.
Got traded to
Seau and Bruschi and Vrabel were all in their upper 30s.
Yeah.
I thought
slow at the time. They were pretty inconsistent. Wilfork was in his prime.
They're still in their prime,
Was Seymour on the Raiders by then?
Yeah, no, I don't. Was Seymour on that team?
He was on that team. I think he left the next year. I think they traded him.
I don't see him on here, but it doesn't give me everybody. Let me see.
And also Ty Warren.
Yeah, he was on that team. He was DN, yeah. Yeah, they had a really good team that year. I think defensive-wise, you definitely give that team the edge. Offense, I would give the Bucs the edge, but when you have that many weapons, because they're not giving, it's not Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and Antonio Brown 5 to 8 catches every game. So you only really need Randy Moss, Stallworth, and Wes Welker to have a great offense. There's more weapons, but you can only have so many players on the field at a time.
Really, the 07 team, the offensive line was the big strength of the.
Yeah, that one too.
That was the best offensive line
And
for
well,
a decade, pretty much, with Logan Mankins and Matt Lott and all those guys.
But I mean, tight end play for sure, Tampa. But I think when you throw Randy Moss in the mix, it's hard to say a team has a better receiver than him. So you kind of have to.
Who was the tight end in 07?
Ben Watson.
I mean, he was good.
Yeah, he's good. Yeah, but I don't think as good as Gronk and Brate and Howard.
I don't know. Well,
blocking wise, yeah.
Howard out of that conversation just because he didn't really play this season with injury. But late career Gronk and Cameron Brate. I don't know. I mean,
I think 2007 Ben Watson is pretty comparable to OJ Howard.
Well, I'll give you this. So
I agree.
Ben Watson's stats that year, though, were 36 catches, 389 yards, and 6 touchdowns. But he was competing with 112 by Wes Welker and 98 by Randy Moss. So that's a big difference.
But the defense on Tampa Bay is much more athletic, especially at linebacker, than that team was.
They're more athletic, but I really think that's more of a time period thing more than I think the 07 team was built to defend in 07,
Yeah, I agree too.
I think it's kind of hard to compare it because you don't have Mahomes, Watson, Lamar in the league. So your guys don't have to, especially interior guys, don't have to be as athletic. So I think that's more of a sign of the times as opposed to it's just a different skill set.
Yeah, I agree.
Worse. But no, going back to Pepper made the point about Brady's movement in the pocket. One thing that he has, the comparison that came to my head was Lamar Jackson, because I think the skill set is based on spatial awareness more than anything. So Brady and Lamar both have this sixth sense of what's around them so they don't get hit. And Lamar obviously is more athletic and does it down the field. But as far as the mental aspect of that goes, I think that's the comparison.
I think a lot of that is also just experience. Not so much for Lamar, but Tom Brady, being able to do those, quick passes, knowing pressure and everything. A lot of the experience that quarterbacks like Lamar and Patrick Mahomes will get a lot better at. So I think that's a big comparison too. Tom Brady has 20 years in the NFL. He's perfected it by this point. We know that.
Yeah, and I was watching this game, and one thing I noticed, so going back to Peyton Manning and even Tom Brady, when you watch them on the pass plays, anytime they're dropping back or moving around in the pocket, the ball doesn't leave either right in front of their chest or up, ready to throw, right? I watched Mahomes so many times. He would kind of drop back and the ball would be over here on his side. And he paid for it a couple of times. And then it's it took him just a tick longer to get his pass out because he's starting down here as opposed to where these guys are starting up here. Well, I really do think that made a difference. Just that little, mechanical issue.
Kind of, but that's the new age of quarterback, though. Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, players like that, like Josh Allen. You're not throwing from up here every time. You're throwing those side passes. You're throwing stuff like that. He's not he has it down here, but he's ready to throw at all times. I think in this game, because he had to throw downfield more because they were down big, so it might have been a problem. But in general, he had the one play out of the end zone where it was beautiful. He wasn't even looking at him. He threw it sidearmed, and of course they ended up punting. But still,
I didn't even think about that. The fact that because with Brady, his release point's pretty much the same place every time.
Mm-hmm.
And Lamar, or not, I keep saying Lamar. Mahomes, I've seen him throw it from like up here to like almost down past his shoulder.
I mean, he's throwing a barrel, like Pepper said.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. Him, Deshaun too. It's all the same.
It does become an issue protecting the ball though too, because it's just obviously harder to hold it with one hand. But I don't think that was that big of an issue.
I agree, yes, but I think it's harder to hold it in one hand when you're in the pocket. When you're moving outside of the pocket, those D linemen are most likely behind you, so they're not really going to have that good, swat on the ball. Like usually, if you see them running to their left, they take off, or running through their non-dominant hand. So if they're running to the right, they're looking downfield. Even when they run to the left, but still, it's just when they're in the pocket, you normally see it up at the chest area. But when they're moving out, and I think that's a big difference in what these quarterbacks can do, like Mahomes, Watson, everyone. We can keep naming all of them, compared to the Brady's. But Brady just does what he does the best, so he doesn't really need to do what the rest of them do. Just needs to keep that awareness.
So before we move off the Super Bowl and the Super Bowl teams, we talked about Tampa Bay moving forward. What do you guys think about Kansas City?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Tyreek Hill's going anywhere. Travis Kelce's not retiring anytime soon, I don't think. Patrick Mahomes, he has 10-ish more years in him. I think, yeah. I don't know if they make it to the Super Bowl, but I think, like you said, 12-4, 11-5. If Andy Reid is still there, then they're going to be a Super Bowl contender.
Have you heard anything about Reid leaving?
No, but I mean, he's having a lot of family issues. When he left Philly, that's kind of what happened, with his son.
Right.
That's kind of the big reason. It wasn't because Philly didn't want him anymore. It's because, well, it's both. It's mutual,
Yeah. Okay. What were you saying, Pepper?
I think next couple years probably their last shot. As Tony Romo during the game was saying, Mahomes has got to get to 8 Super Bowl appearances at least to be in Brady's league. I think people really underestimate how hard it is to make it a Super Bowl year. And the thing about Brady, he never took the big contract like Mahomes got. Mahomes has got $500 million contract.
Mm-hmm.
So in the age of the salary cap, Travis Kelce isn't getting any older. And Chris Jones is going to want to get a big contract. Matthew is going to want a big contract. Frank Clark's going to want a big contract. And, I've seen it many times, when Green Bay won in 2010, everybody thought they were the next dynasty. Aaron Rodgers has never even made it back. So nobody's ever going to replicate what Brady's done again.
Well, to Patrick Mahomes taking the money too, I think, I could be wrong, but I think I heard in an interview where he said he probably won't play past 31 or 32 anyways. So he's not making it to 8 Super Bowls. He might make it to 5 or 6 straight Super Bowls, but
I don't know that he'll make it back. I don't even know if they win their division next year. I think the Chargers might win that division next year.
With who at quarterback?
Justin Herbert.
Justin Herbert, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right, Justin Herbert. I know what I was thinking. I don't think they. I don't think the Chargers.
6 games by a single possession last year.
Yeah, I don't think of the Chargers.
Not to go off on the Chargers too much, but I do want to make a point about Herbert that I was listening to, I believe it was Daniel Jeremiah on NFL Network, and he was saying that the comp for Trevor Lawrence is coming out of college, not current, but the comp was a super revved up version of Justin Herbert. And I think the reason that you would say that is because Lawrence, coming out of college, already had those mechanical, that decision-making ability. A lot of the things that Justin Herbert in his first season took leaps and bounds from his senior year at Oregon. Like, I really think that I agree with you, Pepper. Depending on the coaching staff and how that comes together, I really see the Chargers being like a 12-4, 13-3, like juggernaut of a team. But going back to Kansas City, it is hard to get back. They're in a tough division. I just have a hard time seeing any team replicate what Brady has done, because that's not the standard. That's not the way things work. The best guys like Montana, Bradshaw, like Montana, for example, the best before Brady, he made it to 4 in 20 years, and he was the original GOAT before Brady.
And these guys were pre-salary cap.
Yeah.
Like Bradshaw and the Steelers, they kept that whole team together. You'd never keep a team together like that now.
No, there's no way that a team now to keep the talent that those 80s 49ers teams had, just because everyone wants to get paid. And when you have that much talent, you don't have enough money to go around. But I don't know what it is about Brady, but he just keeps doing it.
And like that, everything he does is consistent.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you guys have any more thoughts about the Super Bowl before we move on?
Not for me.
No, not for me.
All right. So the next thing I want to talk about, let's talk about the QB uncertainty, or not uncertainty, but movement, or kind of what we see. So last week we talked a little bit about Goff and Stafford. So I think we should get a little more in depth about the other guys that are potentially moving on. There's been obviously the Deshaun Watson saga in Houston is not over. We'll see what happens there, but reports have come out this week about Wentz, and I think even Jalen Hurts were in those conversations, those like trade offers that they were receiving. But I think they took the Wentz offers more seriously. And then you have Derek Carr and Marcus Mariota. The Raiders are getting calls about both of those guys. So there's definitely some movement, and we'll go more in depth as the offseason moves on. But what are your guys' thoughts about this potential trade frenzy for quarterbacks?
Well, I mean, starting from the first one, I think Deshaun really needs to leave. I mean, everyone outside of that Texans organization probably thinks that, even a lot of Texans fans. But I don't think he will. I think he'll end up staying. He will play next season for the Texans and hopefully build up his stock for the next season and play on another mediocre team. But yeah, I don't see him moving.
I don't know. Pepper, what are your thoughts about Deshaun and his whole situation in Houston?
It depends on how mad he really is. If he's really going to sit out, then it doesn't really leave him much choice.
Well, has he mentioned anything about sitting out?
He hasn't directly, but I think that's just because of how early it is. But people are talking about it, so it kind of makes you think that somebody in his camp, maybe an agent or someone close to him, is saying like, "Oh, he's for real. He does not want to play with this team anymore. Like, he does not want to play for Cal McNair specifically."
Yeah, if I'm the Texans, you don't want to face your franchise that doesn't want to be there. I'd probably move on, try to get Justin Fields or somebody. Start over.
I think they should. I think whatever happened, there's conflicting reports. There's all this speculation out there about what happened. But regardless of whose fault it was or whatever, the damage is done. And Deshaun does not want to be there, doesn't is not happy, and you're just not going to get the best out of your guy if he's not happy being there. I think obviously you get a lot of value when you trade. It's an unprecedented trade. No one's ever traded somebody who's mid-20s in their prime and playing like Deshaun Watson played. So there's no telling what you can get for them, and you could potentially hit a reboot and say, "Yeah, we made a mistake, but let's move forward and try it again." So
I don't know that they'll get as much as you would think for him though, because there's a lot of factors. A, teams know that they're going to have to trade him if he's not going to play, and B, he has a no trade clause, so he gets to pick where he goes.
mm-hmm.
You could also say, if you're sending your whole roster here, I don't want to go there because they're going to be in the same situation. So he might not get as big of a draw as you think.
Yeah, it just depends on. It's a lot of teams are going to be wanting to give or take, or they're going to want to get picks though. So I think a lot of the options that he'll get are teams he'll want to go to, because a lot of the teams that are looking for a quarterback, the Colts, Bears, Miami, the teams that can get one have a lot of stuff in place that they want to win now. So they're going to give picks more than they are going to give anything else.
So I want to throw one out there that I heard today. I was walking outside and had my Watson jersey on, and one of my neighbors stopped me. He's a 49ers fan. He said, "Hey, I hope your guy's coming here." And I told him initially, I was like, "Well, if that's the case, I'm a 49ers fan, like without a doubt." But that's one that's like kind of like the Panthers. It's slowly building up some steam. This Watson to the 49ers, because Nick Caserio is the GM now, right? The other guy, I can't think of his name, but the like pastor, whatever, is also there from the Patriots. Mm-hmm. These are the guys that brought in Jimmy G. And you have comparable contracts between Watson and Jimmy Garoppolo. Not quite the same, but it's comparable. It's in the same ballpark.
Yeah,
so
I think that's
these guys. You say, "Hey, Houston, here's Jimmy G. Here's 2 first rounds and a second round." I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you this: if they do that, then Brady has a legitimate challenger in the NFC to get the Super Bowl next year.
100%.
That team's loaded.
And I think even with Jimmy G, if it stays the same, that's still a competitor. It's not quite as serious, but they're still, because they were just ruined by injury this season.
I think they reached their ceiling with Jimmy G. They need a legitimate top tier guy to get them over the top.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like if Jimmy G doesn't pan out, though, that San Francisco will be back into rebuilding. I don't know if they'll get someone like Deshaun, because I just don't know if they can give up the weapons and still compete the way they did. Because, all the injuries they've had, they could be in the same boat as the Eagles, A lot of people getting old, getting a lot of injuries, having to get a lot younger. So I don't think... Plus,
their defense was still pretty young, other than Richard Sherman.
That's true, but I guess also giving Jimmy G for Deshaun, that's kind of a hypothetical. You don't see that too often outside of Matt Stafford, Goff. So
yeah. The thinking behind that for me was that Stafford and Goff trade was something that really hadn't been done before, but now that teams have seen it, they're like, "Hey, okay, let's do that."
Well, if you're talking about a Patriots,
they did it.
If you're talking about like a Patriots GM, Patriots people, they're taught to be more conservative with their draft picks and their trades and stuff. So it could be a little bit different.
Well, the Patriots did trade Jimmy Garoppolo for a second-round draft pick.
Exactly, because Tom Brady didn't want him.
Well,
it's Tom Brady's team.
He could, and they want to.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just saying, like, to that point though, Mons, like the amount that you're getting back. Nick Caserio went into this job saying, like, "All right, I don't have a pick until round 3 this season. I've got a quarterback that doesn't want to be here, that doesn't like that I'm here. I don't have a lot of talent outside of the offensive weapons, the receivers, and Deshaun. So we get 3 players in the draft, right? 3 like starters. You get 2 first rounds and a second. That's 3 guys that can start. You get Jimmy G, a guy that has a relationship with Casario, someone that I think fits the bill of I can't think of his name, but the new head coach. Is an older guy, seems more conservative, seems more of a like I want to do things through the trenches. I want to play smart football. I don't think he's too into the exciting, flashy Deshaun Watson getting kicked in the face and then throwing a touchdown.
Well, I mean, none of that team is set up for that, so they're definitely going to be rebuilding. And I don't think you can rebuild with Deshaun Watson on that team. Because, I mean...
I think you could rebuild with Jimmy G on that team, though, is what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, but, I mean, right now, they're not even listening to trade talks, too. So, like, it's kind of like, is he going to go? But also, Deshaun...
Stupid.
I don't know if he'll want to go to San Francisco, too. You know, if they open up the trade talks, he's gonna have the Colts and Miami possibly asking. So I think those 2 teams are much better off because you have to go to San Francisco and play the Rams twice a year, Seattle twice a year, Arizona twice a year.
Seattle's falling apart though.
Who?
There's already talks of Russell Wilson wanting out.
He's not gonna get out. He wants an offensive lineman, and that's another reason like for Orlando Brown to go there.
I think that the NFC West is the last season 4 with the Rams, 49ers, Seahawks. They were definitely worthy of the hype, but moving forward, I kind of see like all of these teams are decaying a little bit. You know, you have the Rams. They got out of golf.
They just got their quarterback. They're not rebuilding. The Rams have Aaron Donald. They have one of the better defenses.
Maybe 2 good years in them, and they're going to be a raging dumpster fire when all these players get old and leave.
No, they have good coaching, Pepper. They're going to make trades. They're going to make moves.
Francisco has the best young coach in there.
I don't know about that one.
Kyle Shanahan is
by far took Jimmy Garoppolo to the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
He took Ryan to the Super Bowl.
Jared Goff went to the Super Bowl. I mean, they're both about comparable.
You are right, Mont. I will say, out of those teams, the Rams are definitely the competition. If you're saying, I want to go to the 49ers, you have to look at the Rams, right? But then you look at the history behind it. You look at kind of where all the talent is. Yeah, you got a bunch of young guys on offense for the 49ers at the skill positions, right? You got Debo, you got Brandon Ayuk, guys that are still developing and getting better and learning the system. And then on defense, your whole defensive line is first rounders that are pretty young.
25.
Well, yeah, and then you also have to pay those guys too. You're not going to pay Deshaun Watson big money. If San Francisco's going to get
already paid though.
Well, yeah, but they're going to have to take over his contract. If it's Jimmy G for Deshaun, they're going to have to be paying somebody. So
yeah,
they already gave Jimmy G a big contract. Though.
Exactly. But all those guys are going to have to come. All those guys are going to have to come paid. So I think they would trade Jimmy G for nobody and draft a quarterback. I don't think you trade Jimmy G for another big name quarterback and have to pay them and then lose it, because that's the whole like scenarios you're saying with Kansas City or other teams. You know, all these people are going to want to get paid. So
when is San Francisco's pick? Can anybody look that up? Their first this year?
It's teams.
Yeah, that's too late to get the kid from BYU.
I think he's going to go second. I don't know if it's to the Jets, but I think if it's not the Jets, someone will trade into second.
Falcons could get him too. You never know what they want.
They could get Mac Jones though.
San Francisco doesn't pick until 12, which at that point the top 2 quarterbacks will be gone for sure.
I think all 4 of the top guys are gone.
Yeah.
12.
Yeah.
They could get Mac Jones at 12.
So I thought about that, right?
At this point, they would be able to keep a better roster around. It is easier to keep a better roster on a rookie deal.
Exactly.
It is, but he's essentially the same guy.
as
He's
Garoppolo.
essentially Jimmy.
He's a lot better arm than Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, I would say.
Much better deep ball. Not even close.
But anyways, so let's move on to the next quarterback. So we're not here talking for another 3 hours.
Yeah, we can do all that.
Carson Wentz. I think you said Carson Wentz versus Jalen Hurts. I haven't heard much about the Jalen Hurts talk, but I definitely think Carson Wentz is on his way out. It's just they're waiting for a good trade deal, and they have another month until they have to pay Carson Wentz his next year's contract. So I think, again, this all is dependent on if the Texans open up trade talks, because I think the Texans will be more open to getting less, because Howie Roseman is really trying to, he does a lot with the numbers. But I think without Deshaun Watson on the table, Carson Wentz probably goes to the Colts if they trade him. Colts or the Bears. I know the Bears are the favorite right now, but I heard a lot of talks about Nick Foles coming back to the Eagles, but I don't know why you trade for Nick Foles. You don't need him back.
No, if you're gonna move forward with somebody, you move forward with somebody that's not Wentz. You move forward with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
So I was looking up the NFL calendar year, and free agency starts March 17th, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they have about a month before trade talks even are a thing that can become official. Like guys can't actually be traded until.
Yeah, exactly. They have a month, so they have plenty of time.
Right. And I do agree with you that it's probably dependent on what Houston does. It's kind of a wait and see game for Philadelphia, I think. I think they're waiting to see what Deshaun gets, and that's kind of like, you look at these quarterback contracts, right? A lot of these guys are like, oh, well, that guy just got paid $100 million. So where's my 102, right? Or you kind of figure out where your worth is.
Yeah, I don't think you'll see any big quarterback contracts this year, but I think as far as like the waiting, it's a lot of not necessarily those two teams, but also the teams that are looking for players, because the Colts, the Colts are offering, the Bears are offering. That's already been decided, but you're also looking at how many quarterbacks are available to offer for. So if the Texans come available and the Colts, they send their offer over to the Texans, then the Eagles all of a sudden have a worse offer because there's fewer teams on the table. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So they have less bargaining. So it's kind of like they have a month, but they have a month right now. But if things change with other teams, then it might get worse for the Eagles.
Yeah. Well, I think the front runner is obviously Indianapolis for Wentz, just because of Frank Reich and the connections there. Are there any other teams other than the Colts and Eagles that you see making a move for Wentz?
You mean the Colts and Bears?
No, either the Eagles keep him or the Colts take him.
The Bears have offered too. I don't know what they offered, but I mean they're on the table though. I think the Bears are, from what we've heard right now, the Bears have made the best offer to the Eagles. So right now, if he got traded today, it probably would be to the Bears. I think the best fit and the team that he'll end up going to is the Colts, because they're probably going to make a larger push for him. But right now, the best offer is from the Bears. So that's where he could end up going.
The place that I think Wentz would be good is the Colts. Because he's really a guy, he's a product of his environment, really.
Mm-hmm.
He had good players around him in Philadelphia. It was great. On pace to win the MVP. And he's got Frank Wright in Indianapolis, guys used to. He's got good young weapons, a really good young running back, and a good defense, and a good offensive line. The Bears, with coach and general manager on the hot seat, I think that would end real bad for him.
Well, I think the Bears, the other side, though, he'll have good young running backs in Montgomery and Cohen. He'll have good receivers. It's really just whether that coaching can be good.
Right. So I think the talent is there for the Bears. If you're Wentz, you're looking at it, you're like, yeah, these guys are pretty damn good. Like, I could do something with it, right? Mm-hmm. But I look at the coaching staff and I look at how Foles and Trubisky played this year. And Wentz is obviously a more talented player than either one of those. But stylistically, I think he has some of the same flaws. I think he holds on to the ball too long. I think he's always trying to make that big play, right? He's not willing to take the check down.
Yeah, but you can say that going to the Colts too. So it's really just.
That's what I was going to say. The difference is when you look at the 17 Eagles with Frank Reich making the game plan, he wasn't calling the plays, but he's making the game plan all week.
Mm-hmm.
And Wentz just played better under that. I feel like he understood what he kind of gelled with what Frank Reich's game plan was a little more.
Yeah, I agree, but ultimately, unfortunately, head coaches don't make the trades, so
that's true.
It won't be up to them per se, but at least it's not up to the Eagles for sure. It's all Howie Roseman.
Oh yeah, I think just real quick, I think that's kind of a flaw in what the Eagles did with who was the guy, Sirianni, because he just never feels like a guy that's going to be Shanahan or Belichick or Brian Flores, right? Because those guys are such essential pieces to their teams, and they're such like leaders of their teams that every decision that's getting made is not getting made unless they okay it.
I mean, it just depends though. He's young, you know. When you have young coaches, they don't have as much autonomy. So I would wait. Howie Roseman's young too. You bring in a head coach with a younger GM, who I think they both have the same mindset. Whereas Doug Peterson kind of didn't have the same mindset as Howie Roseman. So I think that's where it kind of changes. I think he'll have more say in a lot of things than Doug Peterson did. Because I think I put Doug Peterson a lot like Bill O'Brien. They both kind of like they had won and they knew they could win, so they're more or less stubborn to the possibilities that, like, you know, they could be out of a job and stuff like that. That's why I think this situation is a lot different. And I mean, he's young, so we'll wait and see. It's his first head coaching job. He might end up having a lot of say in it. I mean, as long as they don't do what they did with Chip Kelly, I'm okay. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. So looking around, is there anyone else that kind of piques your interest for this conversation?
You mentioned Derek Carr earlier. I don't think Derek Carr is the problem with the Raiders. They need to focus on getting some defensive players. They beat Kansas City.
Yeah.
Or close the second time around.
I think the Raiders are just noise. I don't think there's going to be any big moves out of them. I think, knowing Gruden, they're going to wait till the draft and maybe further. And I mean, there could be end up being big moves, but I think it's not going to happen before the draft.
I look at the relationship between Carr and Gruden, and it just doesn't seem right. You know, Carr doesn't seem like his guy. For whatever reason, I think it could just be a personality thing. Like, their personalities just don't mesh. But I agree. I don't think Carr is the issue, but I do think there is an issue with the play call and quarterback relationship.
I mean, I think differently though. I think because Gruden wants a winning quarterback, and Derek Carr is a winning quarterback. Derek Carr can win games, and I think that's the big philosophy for Gruden. I don't think he needs the flashy, the big name, big arm, stuff like that. I think he needs a winning quarterback, and that's Derek Carr, which is why I think that's worked up until now, and I think it'll keep working.
Well, to be fair though, on the roster they have a guy that could be considered a winning quarterback. You look at what Mariota's done. He won a Heisman in college. He, up until the last season in Tennessee, he played well enough. You know, his big issue is he's too conservative, I think. but that's what Gruden likes. He
Well,
likes a conservative guy.
I mean, that's what I mean by, I don't mean conservative won games in the past. I mean, he'll go out there and be down by 14 points and come back and win the game type of winning quarterback. He'll find a way to win type of quarterback. Mariota had a lot of games at Tennessee where he was 17 of 19 for 190 yards through 0 picks, maybe a touchdown, 2 touchdowns. And you look at his stats at the end of the year and like, he threw for 70% and 3,000 yards or so, but
and then they lost by 20.
Yeah, he wasn't winning the games. So that's the big difference there, yeah.
For sure. The one for me is I'm just interested in the Panthers situation, not specifically Teddy Bridgewater, but more so what they do, because I think everyone in that building has decided this is not our guy moving forward. Like, he's a good guy to have on the roster, but he's not our starter.
Yeah, and I think this is where we'll see Carolina look to the draft. I don't know if they'll get in on any of these. I don't know if they will pay the big money like we talked about before with Christian McCaffrey and everything. I don't know. It'd be cool to see them make a trade for Deshaun or somebody, but I see them going to the draft. They already tried to make the trade for Teddy Bridgewater and that didn't work out. So I think they'll go younger. Christian McCaffrey is still young. He might have 3 or 4 more years in him. You can get a quarterback in there, get a good team within 2 years, and be competitive again.
What pick do they have?
Go ahead, Pat.
What pick does the Panthers have?
They have an early pick. 8, yeah.
8?
Yeah. I can see them
get Justin Fields at 8.
They could. I mean, looking at it,
they should get him.
If Justin Fields doesn't drop to the Jets, or doesn't go to the Jets, and if he doesn't drop to the Falcons, like the Falcons don't pick him, I don't think Cincinnati doesn't get a quarterback. Philly, I don't think gets a quarterback. Detroit doesn't. So Carolina gets him,
I think Detroit might.
I still don't think Detroit gets a quarterback. I think if Sayal's there, the left tackle, when it gets to Detroit, I think that's who you get. You get a good left tackle in there.
You're talking about?
Who is it?
Penei Sewell from Oregon.
Sewell, yeah, Penei Sewell. Yeah, if he's still available at when Detroit picks at number 7, which it could be because the Eagles are going to get probably a receiver. Miami's probably going to get Micah Parsons. The Falcons, they're questionable, but I don't think they get a receiver. Or I don't think they get a lineman. I think they go skill player. So
what I've been seeing with the Falcons, a lot of people are projecting them to go after Fields, right? And so I think for the Panthers, it depends on the guy they want. If they want Fields, I think they trade to number 2. I think that's the most likely scenario for them to make a move for their quarterback and not just stay put at 8 or free agency, whatever.
One thing I've seen though is, so the Falcons get Patrick Surtain, Dolphins of course Devontae Smith, and then Detroit could get Fields if Zach Wilson goes number 2. But then one thing I've also seen is what's it called? Carolina trading to the Texans, and then the Texans getting Justin Fields. That's one thing I've seen.
I've seen that too. For whatever reason, I feel like that has lost some steam, though. The Panthers on the Deshaun Watson.
Well, that's because they're not open to the trade, so they're not really gonna.
You're right.
They're not gonna entertain it until they say they're gonna trade him. But I think if they say they're gonna trade him, I mean, if Deshaun has that no trade clause, if Carolina is on that list, you say, hey, look what they have to offer. I'll go there.
Sure. Mons, is there anyone else for you?
Nah, I think we talked about the quarterbacks I wanted to talk about.
Cool. So, moving on, we wanted to talk a little bit about our plan for this show and for the YouTube page, hopefully expanding social media pages. We have some ideas moving forward of some show ideas for the off season. We're going to try, I think, to still be a weekly podcast during the off season as consistently as we can. And then we have been brainstorming some topics moving forward for the podcast that are, I think, are really interesting. Do either of you guys want to talk about some of those, like, and what your feelings are about that?
If you just want to run through a few of them.
Yeah, sure. So for the podcast, the topics that we were kind of looking at, it's a lot of thought exercises, a lot of kind of hypotheticals, I guess. So naming the quarterback for each team is one. So at some point this offseason, we will bring to you what we think our 2020 opening day starters are, right?
2021.
2021, yeah, sorry. We have some mock drafts. I think I don't know for sure, but I think each of us are going to produce at least a round one mock draft.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll bring that to you obviously before April. Talking about team retrospectives, so doing a kind of, when I was thinking about this idea, I was thinking in the vein of what All or Nothing on Amazon has done, where they started preseason for that team, so the like 2020 Panthers preseason, and then kind of do, it's kind of like an oral history moving to the draft. So it'll be post free agency, post draft, and then we'll do a small projection about what we think about those teams in 2021. And that, of course, will have a more clear idea of what the rosters will look like. We've talked about doing a worst to first series. So we'll take the last place team in each division, and this I think will have to be pre-free agency. So we'll have to do this pretty soon. But it'll be what all of those last place teams can do in free agency and the draft to go from worst to first in their division. We've got a couple of top 100 lists. We've talked about top 100 in 2021, so that's more of a projection going forward of who we think the top 100 players are going into 2021. And then we have, this was Pepper's idea, a top 100 21st century players. And I personally like that idea because it solidifies an era of football where everyone is sort of comparable, right? Like this passing evolution that happens when you're comparing quarterbacks, they're all sort of on the same plane. We have a bunch of other ideas. We'll keep thinking of more moving forward. Do any of those stick out to you guys? What are y'all excited about?
I think I'm talking about football in general. I think I'm excited about all of them. Definitely some great ideas, and we can have a lot of things going forward.
Mm-hmm. Pat, what about you?
I think it's a lot of good ideas for a starter.
Yeah. And the other thing that I wanted to mention, expanding outside of our podcast, is something that I'm very interested in. So producing more content outside of just our weekly talks about whatever's going on. And some of the content that I was thinking of was this idea of doing like a quote unquote football school and kind of breaking down the X's and O's of some of the game's more popular plays, more popular concepts. And hopefully we'll have some visual elements to that, have some animation, and illustrate the plays in a way that, at least for me, seems very clear and resembles kind of what the players are seeing with these play concepts. Another idea would be doing the history of a player. So kind of same thing, a career retrospective. So we can pick a player and just kind of go through their history and kind of explain the history of football, if you will, to you guys. So that's my thoughts on expanding outside of the podcast, and I'm excited about that as well.
Yeah, I like it. Definitely very exciting.
Yeah. Closing thoughts. Do you guys? Is there anything that moving forward y'all want to talk about, or thoughts about the show today?
Just gonna miss football for 7 months, but we'll try to make it exciting here while we can.
Yeah, for sure. Pep?
Yeah, hopefully we'll actually get off season this year.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. Hopefully, vaccinations start coming out. We can kind of get this pandemic behind us and move forward to real life again.
Yes, yep, definitely.
Yeah, so I just want to thank everyone for watching. I think we had a really good show today, and just everyone stay safe, stay healthy, wear a mask, don't go shotgun beers or share beers with strangers. That's all. Have a good day. Thank you for watching.